Let's talk about Chaos Incarnate upgrades, starting with our commander, Carter Doomscourge. For 2 black and red, we have a 4/3 Demon Berserker. When it enters the battlefield, until your next turn, creatures your opponents control attack each combat if able, and attack a player other than you if able. Whenever an attacking creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So let's talk about ways that we can encourage more combat with cards like Disrupt Decorum, Goblin Diplomats, and Goblin Spymaster. We're going to be able to goad all creatures we don't control, so that means they're going to have to attack if able, and hopefully another player other than us. There's Goblin Diplomats, we can tap this and each creature attacks this turn if able. There's also Goblin Spymaster. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, that player creates a 1/1 red goblin creature token with creatures you control attack each combat if able. So if they don't have a way to sacrifice this creature, they're going to have to attack with their creatures and hopefully they'll die in combat and we're able to gain life, and each opponent will lose 1 life for each creature. Speaking of creatures dying, we have Gisa Glorious Resurrector. If a creature an opponent controls would die, we're going to exile it instead. At the beginning of your upkeep, put all creature cards exiled with Gisa Glorious Resurrector onto the battlefield under your control. They gain Decayed. We want their creatures to die, and so when they die, we're going to get them under our control. Let's talk about card draw. We have Harvester of Souls, Morbid Opportunist, and Ember Wild Captain. Harvester of Souls says when another non-token creature dies, you may draw a card. Since we're promoting combat and our opponent's creatures dying, this is a great card for us. As well as Morbid Opportunist. While this only counts once each turn, it applies to any creature that dies within that turn. So we're going to get to draw 1 card each turn if a creature dies that turn. Ember Wild Captain. When it enters the battlefield, we become the Monarch. That means at our end step, we're going to draw a card if we're the Monarch, and if an opponent deals us combat damage, they become the Monarch, and they will get the benefits from that. But whenever an opponent attacks us while we're the Monarch, Ember Wild Captain will deal damage to them equal to the number of cards in their hand. Let's talk about giving our opponents some tokens. We have Clackbridge Troll, Hunted Horror, Rite of the Raging Storm, and Slaughter Specialist. Clackbridge Troll is very interesting. It's an 8/8 with Trample and Haste. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent creates 3 0/1 White Goat creature tokens. At the beginning of combat on your turn, any opponent may sacrifice a creature. If a player does, we have to tap Clackbridge Troll, we gain 3 life, and we get to draw a card. So while they do get to tap this 8/8 down, they're sacrificing creatures, which is no trouble for us. Hunted Horror. It enters the battlefield and target opponent gets to create 2 3/3 Green Centaur creature tokens, and they have protection from black, but we get a 7/7 with Trample for only 2 black mana. Rite of the Raging Storm. Creatures named Lightning Rager can attack you or planeswalkers you control. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player creates a 5/1 elemental creature token named Lightning Rager. It has Trample, Haste, and at the beginning of the end step, sacrifice this creature. So if it doesn't die in combat, they're going to lose it at their end step anyways. And last is Slaughter Specialist. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent creates a 1/1 white human creature token. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, we're going to put a +1/+1 counter on Slaughter Specialist. This is a great card for this deck. So let's move on to the cards we will be removing from the deck. We have Breath of Malfagor, Explosion of Riches, Reign of the Pit, and Unlicensed Disintegration. These are instants and sorceries that did not really go along with what I wanted to do. And for the mana cost, I don't think these are very powerful cards anyways. And for some of the creatures, we have Combustible Gearhulk, Gutter Snipe, Karavek the Merciless, and Magmatic Force. Now these can be very powerful cards in the right deck. I just don't think they belong in this deck. Again, this is all my opinion of cards I would be taking out of this deck. We also have Thermal Alchemist, Titan Hunter, and Wildfire Devils. This has some sort of theme of instants and sorceries, but I don't think there's enough to justify putting these cards in there. I'd rather promote forced combat, having their creatures die, and giving them more creatures to attack with later. Thank you all so much for watching. Check out this playlist right here for the other Commander starter decks. If you want to buy any of these cards, they'll be in the link in the description down below, as well as the cards to remove. And thank you to the patrons who help support this show. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.